So welcome to my third podcast. I want to introduce Richard Kaye, who blew my mind the first time I met him. And then, as my friend David Sachs says, he went deeper. So he goes very deep, very quick, and he gets right to the nugget of what you need to understand about your own business, and he can move things forward. He runs a company called CEO Space, and I'll let Richard say hello.
Hey, good morning. I just need to make a distinction. I don't run it. I've been working with CEO Space for 22 of the 33 years, though. So I don't want that out there. It's, just clarity. Thank you. Okay.
That's fine. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about what CEO Space is, just so people get some context for what we're going to do.
Oh, outstanding. As I said, we've been around for 33 years. We only do one thing. We accelerate the growth of businesses. Especially today, we're all on webinars and seminars and Zoom calls, and when we used to do live meetings, you go to an event, and regardless of the format, you get a wealth of information, you learn a lot, and then they sell you stuff. They sell you their next program, their workshop, their program, whatever it is. Well, we have a reputation, because it's true, that we don't sell anything. Forbes, Inc., London Financial Times, Jason, myriad publications say this is the #1 business growth conference, the one you cannot afford to miss. So that serves as an overview. I mean, I could talk 4 hours nonstop and tell you what we've done.
Sure. No, well, today we had a goal because I met you, I'd say about 5-6 weeks ago.
Yes.
And you said 2 words to me that rocked my world, because I grew up in an environment where if you say something, you got to back it up. And in the real world, outside my home, people take that kind of attitude and they get very uncomfortable because they think you're being critical, because it's a two-way street. If you say something and you got to back it up, that means whoever you're talking to, if they come up with something, they got to back it up, which means it's like a New York toughness, if you will.
Right.
And so I have a very critical family on all levels, and I'm very tough because of it. But I'm open. So I don't need therapy. I know my place in the world, and I understand that when people are being tough, I give them the benefit of the doubt, and I assume they're doing it for my better good, not because they got to demonstrate to me how smart they are and stuff like that, okay? That they're trying to help me, even though it may not feel that way because it sounds like criticism. Right. But what you did is you said, when we were in a group meeting with about 10 people, and I came in a little bit late, but I got the gist of it, you said, "Can I +1 you?" And I went, wait a second, what did he just say? I've never heard this phrase before. And all of a sudden, I saw you do it to one person. They were talking about their business, and you reframed their business, not in a way that embarrassed them, but it +1 what they were saying. And then it was my turn, and you did the same thing to me. And I started feverishly writing down notes to reframe my business, because you didn't make me feel like you were criticizing me. And you have a demeanor as well that corresponds and correlates with this whole +1 idea. And you really took where I was and you elevated me. And I found that to be, as I told you, I'll spend a year joining the organization, not even worrying about the meetings and the fact that it's one of the highly ranked organizations for CEOs and all the networking. I said, if I just sit in meetings with you and watch you +1 all the people around you, that's worth more than the membership fee. So if anyone gets anything out of this podcast, it's going to be that you need to learn, you need to be +1 by Richard. Let's put it that way.
Well, thank you. That's a heck of a thing to live up to. And let me give you the genesis of that.
Sure.
In business, we can, like I said, I can talk 4 hours about CEO Space. You can talk 4 hours about what you do. Anyone can do that, or 12 hours. You want to get to a place where you can speak succinctly so that people get what it is you're talking about. And it's not, the introduction, Jason, is, it's not a time to sign a contract. It's not a time to do a deal, get married. It's a time to get someone's interest. And at CEO Space, it is a culture of collaboration and cooperation. we use the expression, because people, part of it is, let me hear what you do. And the essence of it is called plussing. It comes from Walt Disney. No one likes to be criticized. Even if it's constructive, it's got the word criticism there.
Right.
And, anytime someone does that, we have to defend ourselves. And that's what fighting is about: physical, spiritual, mental, emotional. We dig our heels in and we have to justify. So in that exercise, and it's CEO Space at our programs, we do hour after hour after hour of this, the coaching, the mentoring, and the plussing, that someone will tell a story. And we tell people, no one wants your story right now. That's after you get to know somebody. So the plussing, and here's the essence of it. What is the problem? And you heard me say this during that conference. Not your problem. Nobody cares about your problem. No, yeah, maybe no one cares.
Right.
Yeah. So it's what is the global problem to which you offer a solution? What is the solution you offer? And then what is it that you're looking for next? So for example, I'm going to paraphrase. If someone says, well, I've got a 25-year history of building websites, and we use the Adobe Muse as the platform, or we can use Drip. Nobody cares. Nobody cares what is underneath the engine. Now, if you're a car, there's an old saying, if you watch how they make sausage, you'll never eat it. You don't want to know what goes into it.
Right.
As an end user, just show me that it works. So what if in that example, you were to say, how many times you looked at a website and you wonder, who designed that thing? It doesn't speak to me, doesn't tell me what you do. It tells me your whole history. So what if you were to say, you want a website that produces traffic, but more than traffic, you want a website that converts, that gets people to want to get in touch with you and use your services. I've got 25 years experience in building amazing websites, and that's not just me speaking. Some of our clients have increased their revenue, because that's all anyone cares about, by 38.5%. If you, and here's the key in this, if you or someone you know, now why do we say that? Because if the person with whom you're speaking doesn't have a need for it, there's no listening.
Right.
They may know somebody. So if you or someone you know would like a revenue generating website, let me know. And depending on the environment, it's a business card or chat and a Zoom. So the distinction here is, how can you say this in 20 to 30 seconds? Get someone's attention. And then
I think this is +10 what you just did. It's not +1. So I am recording this because you just gave me my commercial, which I'm turning into a video, and it's perfect.
And that's why I use that as an example.
It's very contextual. And that leads us to really the big topic now of what I'm calling COVID conversations, which is you're talking to hundreds of CEOs at any given moment through the organization. And you're almost in a certain sense a sounding board for the crisis that we're going through with COVID.
Right.
And you're hearing all the stories, not that people are complaining, but you're the radio station that's tuned in to the CEO conversations.
Yes.
And there are 3 words that come to mind, which is, we're in a pandemic, we all want prosperity, but as the diver knows, you have to plan the dive to dive the plan. So what we need to deal with is planning. So the question to focus on today is, how are you advising your members to thrive and to plan to thrive in these crazy times?
It's an interesting way to phrase the question. Diplomatically, we don't advise anyone to do anything.
Right.
I will never know what's in anyone's best interest.
Right.
I have my experience. I have a broader, perhaps, perspective, because working with hundreds and hundreds and thousands of entrepreneurs, I don't know what's in someone's best interest. So we will extend an invitation for people to come and play. And I'm going to give you an example of Well, many years ago, there was a young man. He was a teacher in Tampa. It was about 20 years ago, where you didn't have the technology on your wrist, if you were a wristwatch, that today is more powerful than the computers in the shuttles back in the spacecraft back then. But Chris wanted to teach kids how to play the piano, and he wanted to use the computer as a teaching model. That's all he knew. He had this brilliant idea. Well, he had no money. He had to find the money to become a member of CEO Space. We're a membership, lifetime membership organization. Jason, I'm going to take you through a very fast journey, a time capsule. He put his team together, put his business plan together. The product is now called Piano Wizard. You can look it up online.
What was it called then?
It was called Piano Wizard. See, that's the branding. When I said it's called, now called, because that's the branding that happened. We've got branding people that you just cannot imagine.
Right.
Piano Wizard, learn to play the piano, like a wizard. He's raised over $14 million. And through our connection grid, he picked up Fisher-Price and Disney as his marketing arm.
Wow.
So the segue into the answer is create alliances and joint ventures. And what does that mean? Gone are the days of competition. Competition's gotten us to where we are in the world today. And quite frankly, it's not a nice place. So when you work with other people, when you joint venture, you work with, not for them, but you promote them, they promote you, back and forth, back and forth. Everybody wins. There is more than enough money on the planet. There is more than enough business on the planet. If you support one another, and let me amplify that, because you and I've had some conversations. At CEO Space, well, even before CEO Space, I assert that most people listening or watching go to networking meetings, whether it's virtual or when we go back to the physical stuff. When I used to go to networking meetings, when I was practicing chiropractic, it was who's coming in as a client. The person next door to me, who's going to buy her insurance, who's going to buy a car, me. We coach people to be in service, to give so it hurts. So instead of saying how much of my business you're consuming, our questions are, and this is the premise we spoke to a moment ago, what is it that you do? And what do you need next? How may I serve you?
Right.
So, again, with your permission, I'm going to use you as an example. If you and I were meeting, sitting on an airplane, you remember those days? Sitting next to somebody in an airplane?
Sure.
Or in a networking event, I say, Jason, what is it you would do? And you would give to me what we just discussed. We call it SNAP, Super Networking Accelerates Potential. Instead of blurting out, I got 25 years of building websites, I'm an entrepreneur in an entrepreneurial environment, you might say, hey, Richard, have you ever seen a website that really speaks to you? Have you seen websites that you just want to know more? Well, now you've got my attention. And I said, yeah, so tell me about it. And that's when you give this story. Let me give you another example. Sitting on an airplane some years ago when we used to do that. And I'm reading a novel. That's what I do when I just want to turn off the world.
Yeah.
Woman taps me on the shoulder, very attractive lady sitting next to me. She says, what do you do? I could have put the novel down and I could have told her, I could have vomited CEO Space all over her. Oh, we were 32 years, Inc., Forbes, London Financial Times. We launched Chicken Soup for the Soul. We launched Lisa Nichols. We launched Airborne. These are all products and people who came through CEO Space starting from nothing.
Right.
And she probably would have picked up my novel, read it. I said, oh, we launch businesses. Back to a novel. A couple of minutes later, well, how do you do that? I said, well, we have conferences and we teach collaborative, cooperative business growth. Back to my novel. A couple of minutes later, can we talk? I'm an entrepreneur and I'm looking to grow my business. See, when you pique someone's interest, you get them to ask you.
Right.
Which is always a much better way of building rapport in business. So when you find out what someone's joint venture, what they do, find out if it's a match. Now, it may not be a match. If there is, Find out how you and they can work together. There is enough business to go around that you can support people in their quest, in their adventure, and they'll support you.
Well, I'm sorry. I belong to an organization called Provisors, which is going nationally. It started out in California, and they're going corporate, if you will. And they have a mantra, which is know, like, trust, and refer. And
Wow.
so it's not something they invented, I don't think, but it's the idea is when you do business with people that you like,
Yes.
and you refer business to people that you trust. And so it's a mixture of two. So your idea is ultimately, if you open the door to a conversation with somebody without telling them in advance, without getting permission, if you will, the reception of what you have to say is extremely different.
Right.
Now, plus one way.
No, what you said is beautiful. It's just extending the invitation. And when we were on that conference, if you remember, each person I asked, may I plus you?
Right.
And it's speaking exactly to what you said. You ask permission rather than just barging in. And it's done sans ego. There's no attachment. Someone can either accept your coaching, your mentoring, or they say, yeah, hey, that doesn't fit. And if you remember, I probably said, don't take my words. It's got to be from a soul level. It's got to resonate with you profoundly.
Right.
Jason, we all play roles. Right now, you're playing the role of a show host. I'm playing the role of a show guest. You and I connected on a different level. Ladies and gentlemen, you play a role of a husband, a wife, a lover, a boyfriend, whatever role you play. I invite you to play the role of a soul. Connect on a soulful level. You made a statement that's interesting, know, like, and trust. One of my faculty members at one point says, oh, it's nonsense that people do business with people they trust. No, on some level, that's true. When I go on Amazon or, something, I don't know them. Do I trust Amazon? Well, sometimes.
Yeah. On
a person-to-person level, you're always going to do some business with people you trust, with someone you know. When I was practicing chiropractic, people had full-page ads when they were allowed to advertise.
Right.
Who's going to go to a doctor because they got a full-page ad or a billboard? That doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
You're going to call someone and say, hey, who do you see? Or today you see it all over Facebook. Who do you recommend? It's that personal connection. And going back to your correct questions about pandemic prosperity planning, it's all the same. Everything we've been talking about is building relationships. Relationships will crush anything. Would you want to go to a dentist that, because she had a big head? I would think not. I think you'd call someone in the community and say, hey, who's the best? And then you might call other people and get other opinions.
Right.
So, yeah, I love your thinking. It's really congruent.
Well, let me ask you something. For people who are listening, how can they find out more about what CEO Space can do for their business? Well,
it's great questions. A couple of things I want to offer your listeners. One of them is a consultation. And you can go to richardkaye.com/talk. RICHARDKAYE.com/talk. My billable hours are $275 for a 45-minute consult. We met through, and this is a joint venture, what my service giving to your listeners, your clients, and helping you. Because, Jason, what happens when someone comes off a consult with me, and just like your experience, they come back to you and say, Jason, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's one thing. There's another thing. Some of the speakers at CEO Space, These are people that most of us cannot get to connect with. One of my faculty members, you may not know his name, ladies and gentlemen, Alex Stern, but I'll bet you know his company. And when Alex teaches at, well, I don't know if he teaches anyplace else too, but at CEO Space, one of his stories is, this isn't a business that started in someone's basement. No, no, this started in someone's attic. And they sold Constant Contact for $1.3 billion. Alec is such a beautiful soul. He's a mensch. He works with people. He helps you. And when you're in our programs, you had a private appointment with Alec or Bob Proctor or Les Brown or the faculty. So some of the faculty members, I mean, many people cannot afford an hour of Alec's time. But when you're enrolled in our program, you go on his appointment and you click the link and you've got a nice solid hour. So I'd like to offer your viewers here
Right.
keynote talks from amazing people, Bob Proctor, Mark Victor Hansen, Lisa Nichols.
Right.
Let me tell you a short story with Lisa. Lisa was working a minimum wage job in a place called South Central Los Angeles, really nasty neighborhood. Her soul said, I got to come to CEO Space. She's another one who had to find the money to come. Jump ahead a couple of years, Jason. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know Lisa, she was the star of a video many years ago called The Secret. She got in it through connections at CEO Space. She got a $1 million advance on her book called No Matter What through CEO Space. She got on the Oprah Winfrey Show because of connections through CEO Space. She doesn't come back anymore. She's too busy. She's the most highly requested motivational speaker on the planet. So you can have 3 keynotes, Bob Proctor, Mark Hansen, Lisa Nichols. Just go to thebusiness.space/Jason. When we sell those, that's $500. We're going to give them to you for free. That's our culture. And by the way, there's no sales at CEO Space. You will see 90 minutes, 4.5 hours total about for those people just pouring their hearts out. And then a little bit we'll tell you about one more offer that I'm going to give to you.
Go for it. Get it out there.
You want it now? Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. We are a lifetime membership organization. And our founder, Bernie Dorman, took his last breath a couple of weeks ago. And one of my very, very closest friends, it's been a struggle moving through this. The organization is now thriving. We're doing better and better and better. The most populated year we ever had was one right after 9/11 because people said, I don't want to have a job anymore. So entrepreneurs come to us, and it's not instead of anything else, it's in addition to, and you grow your businesses.
Right.
So in honor of Bernie's passing, I'm offering your viewers a $1,500 discount on lifetime membership. $1,500 off. And it's not a $100,000 program. I mean, this is a substantial discount. And ladies and gentlemen, let me give you my email address also. And that's Richard K. My email address is rkaye@richardk.com. RICHARDKAYE.com. So ladies and gentlemen, reach out to me and whatever works best for you. Let's explore how we can take you from where you are and bridge the gap to where you want to be in your business. And Jason, I don't know how much more time we've got. I can share more growth stuff.
You covered a lot of ground. As my buddy Howard Stern says, you said it all. Even though you didn't say it all, you said enough to give people a tease about what CEO Space, which wasn't really the point of the call. The point is for me to give you an acknowledgement how you helped me with the +1, not just for my business, but really you have changed my way of thinking because of 2 things. One is, and I naturally give unsolicited advice. It's just, it's at the root of who I am, because I think the family was called Esterhazy from the 1900s, early 1900s. And it was a very tough family. And the idea was, did you try as hard as you can? Which is an impossible goal to achieve, but it's still a marker to say I'm at least trying. I may not achieve the hardest that I can, but it's still within my ability to try harder. And so therefore, I always look around me and I say, well, can I make things better for other people's situations? And that means I'm instantly driven to just give advice. And the problem is I don't have permission. So now you're giving me the ability to, one, not the ability, you're giving me the permission to ask permission, really, and say, this is the way you got to do it, is one, ask permission. Two, don't call it criticism. Even in my head, think about it from a positive standpoint, point of +1, which means I'm taking what they did and I'm elevating it, which is from a Jewish perspective, that has a whole religious connotation because our mission is to elevate everything around us in the world and take the things that are physical and make them more spiritual so that we acknowledge our creator. And so there is that aspect of it. And I'm not trying to preach, but I'm just saying your +1 is like a series of concentric circles. It started small, but it's getting wider and wider, like ripples in a lake. And I'm so appreciative of having learned it and then being able to share it with you. It's like I had a podcast last week, and the person who, Sergio Simmel, was trained by the founder of EOS. And that's like a whole system called Traction. And he's very proud to have been trained by the founder. So here I'm in the presence of maybe not the Walt Disney who might have created +1, but still nevertheless, it's as close as I need to get, let's put it that way. And so hopefully people are going to get value and from what we've discussed. And COVID tangentially, maybe there's a +1 that each person can look inside their own business now in this new COVID reality of a remote workforce, networking on a Zoom call like we're doing, all of that stuff, and see that maybe they're open to the invitation to be +1 by the people around them. And I think that especially in the political environment that we're in, that everybody is so solid in their belief system, they don't want to give permission to anybody to invade their security space. And I think that the permission that you ask, it also has to be given by the recipient. So what you've taught me is a very, it's impactful as a two-way street, because I'm not just going to ask, I'm going to be more forthcoming to give. So you hit the nail on both sides, right? So look, I'm happy that we had this meeting. We kept it under a half hour, which is a personal goal of mine too. Of course, we could talk for hours. And in the provisors world, this is like a troika. And the idea is to get personal and get deep fast and build this rapport, which I hope that we did. And hopefully people get something out of it. So if there's any lasting story you want to share, I'm all ears.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. And ladies and gentlemen, it's an invitation. Reach out to me. Let's explore whether you become a member of CEO Space or not. I don't know if I said we've helped people raise $3 billion in growing their businesses. You may not need capital. You just may need to have the team, the network, the language distinguishes, which will change everything you do in your personal as well as your business life. So it's an invitation. Reach out. You've got my contact information. Let's see how I can serve you. And as Zig Ziglar used to say, see you at the top. Jason, thanks for the opportunity to play in your playground here.
As John Wick says, I serve, I am of service. There you go. Good job.